On another edition of Locked On Lightning, the Lightning clinch a playoff berth in their 4-3 win in overtime against Anaheim Ducks, but not before they made it interesting. We talk about all of that and more, but first, let's play that music.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. On tonight's episode, I guess Bolt After Dark, we got to start naming these things because I'm recording this not too long after the 4-3 overtime win against the Anaheim Ducks in what was nothing short of a very eventful game and pretty much a stressful game as well. A lot of goals being called back, Andrei Vasilevskiy getting pulled. The Lightning clinching a playoff spot. I mean, if you had all the prop bets for that, you made definitely a lot of money tonight on this Lightning game. So where to start? I guess we could just talk about the Lightning doing the right thing and it blowing up in their faces. And what I mean by that is getting off to an early lead. I tweeted out when the Lightning scored the first goal, the opening goal, a goal from Ross Colton, who had that's 17 on the season for him. By the way, what a fantastic season from Ross. Really just taking his game to another level. We spoke a lot about it in the offseason, and as the months have passed, how really Ross scoring that game winning. You have to go back to it every time now as you see Ross Colton progress through his career, it really is going to go back and forever be tied to that game-winning goal in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup final, of last year against the Montreal Canadiens. Game-winning goal against the Montreal Canadiens at home at Amalie, and really, we said it at the time, and I'm going to keep saying it until his career is over. Is that has really propelled him, I think, and is really the best thing for him was to score that goal because, I mean, his game has just gone to a whole nother level. He has really just been playing with a bunch of confidence. We've seen him obviously struggle time and time, and he lets his emotions get the best of him, but ultimately the talent is there, and we've seen it. We've seen it throughout the entire season, and scoring 17 goals is definitely no small feat. And then a goal later on in the first period, Alex Colorand, who could have had a hat trick if it wasn't just for him and Brandon Hagel staying on sides in this one. Unbelievable game from Alex Colorand. He was just completely everywhere in this. He had a goal and I believe a point as well. Yes, he got an assist on that Cirelli goal, the game winner in overtime. And then, of course, Nikita Kucherov scoring in the third period, his 16th of the year, assisted by Corey Perry and Steven Stamkos. And really, Nikita Kucherov, it's unbelievable. It really, for as many games as he has missed over the last couple of years, it has really been a treat as a host of this show, as well as just watching him as a hockey fan to see what he could do regardless of how much time he's been off the ice. There's very few players, I think, in the league right now that could really pick it up and put it down as easily as Nikita Kucherov can. And he showed tonight, especially in those last, I would say, 2 minutes or so of the third period, as to why he is, I would say, I think we could agree, top three winger in the league. Really taking control there, and that's definitely something that is the main ingredient in the recipe to winning for the Tampa Bay Lightning, is that when 86 is taking control of the game, maybe taking a lot more shots than you would really like to see someone take in the span of a time that he does, he really has that ability to change the game and to tilt the ice in favor. But obviously, the story of this one, which I have to admit, not that all surprising after the Lightning going up 2-0 into the first intermission. After that Henrique goal, you just saw the body language from this team and from Anaheim. I'm not going to say this was all the Lightning giving away a game. I mean, Anaheim played fantastic in this. This is why they are a playoff caliber team. This is why you're going to see them be successful for years to come. Get 2 goals from Adam Henrique in the first 10 minutes of, I would say, probably the first 7 minutes, mid 7 minutes of this period, and then a go-ahead goal by Troy Terry, 34 on the year, just having an incredible season on his end, assisted by former Lightning defenseman Andrei Schuster. Just really, we kind of knew this was going to happen. Like I said, I think after that first Henrique goal at 3:42 in the second period, you just could see, not only from the body language of this team, just the vibe in the building. I don't know if any of you who are watching this or listening to this right now were there. If you were, tweet out to the show, LO_Lightning, or give us a follow and throw us a message at @LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram. Let us know, what was it like in the arena. But from our end, it just deflated. And at least on my end, I'm going to try and keep it PG here, but I really, I said to myself, they're going to F this up. And they did just that. And sometimes, we have seen this team play from behind way too many times than we would like. But at the same time, it is when they are playing from behind that this team really shines. And oftentimes they can't win. You can't a hole and be able to expect yourself to climb out every single time. That's just not how it works, and we've seen that throughout the entire season. They need to do a better job, and I'm happy, but also conflicted at the same time, because going into this game, if you listened or watched the last episode on YouTube, I stated that really I thought that Brian Elliott should have started this game. I said I think that you got to give, as good of a team as Anaheim is, and of course you want to have your number one goalie out there. You know what? You're going to make the playoffs. That's not, missing the playoffs is not in the equation. It wasn't. I said some astronomical things had to happen down the stretch. The Lightning had to not collect a point at all going forward, as well as, other teams kind of getting it together, which I, off the top of my head, I don't even think was mathematically impossible. But having said that, I still think that, given what we've seen from Vasilevskiy and how this team has played in recent weeks, the Lightning need to give him time off. John Cooper needs to give him time off. And I don't think this was a must-play game for Andrei Vasilevskiy. A couple of unlucky tip-ins, bounces by the Ducks past Vasilevskiy. One puck squeaks by him. You know what? I'm not going to kill him for that. His team needs to play better in front of him. At the same time, not a must-play game for Vasilevskiy, and we'll talk about more of that in the second part of the show. But first, I want to talk about our one and only sponsor of the episode. Like I said, if you had the prop bets parlayed of Vasilevskiy getting pulled, the Lightning making the playoffs, and then winning an OT, I think you made a bunch of money tonight. And I hope when you put in those bets that you use the official betting platform of not only Locked On Lightning, but the Locked On Podcast Network. And that is betonline.net, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, news, and including this year's basketball playoffs, NHL playoffs, and the start of Major League Baseball season. I've been betting on baseball like crazy. Might as well ban me from baseball. Call me Pete Rose Jr. right there. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you're staying right here. You're going to listen to me talk about how really, once again, this was not a must-play game for Vasilevskiy. And if you are listening to us on an audio platform, you are joining us back. And really just, I want to know what the thought process was. I really do. And I'm sure we'll obviously hear more from John Cooper in his post-game presser, which we are recording this episode at 10:21 p.m. Eastern time. So that is probably going on, if not has already concluded. And I'll talk about more about that tomorrow on tomorrow's episode. But really sticking right here about this, just initial reactions. Really don't understand the reasoning. I said going into the month of April that really Vasilevskiy out of the 13 games should maybe start 6 or 7. And, Elliott's been playing for a backup. And even if he was a starter pretty well, coming off a 5-0 shutout against the Sabres and then coming into this game and pretty much keeping the Lightning in the game, giving them a chance to win, which going back to how Vasilevskiy played tonight, I'm not going to kill him for this. The first goal, Henrique's goal, I believe that was in the second period, squeaked right by him. That was inexcusable. Really needs to stop it there. I know that sometimes you got to give the goaltenders a little bit of slack here, but come on. I mean, given what has happened in recent weeks, and I'm sure Cooper, I wouldn't be surprised if Jared Cooper comes out in his post-game presser and says maybe we should have played Elliott in this one. Elliott has played fantastic, who I have really kind of crucified all season long. I just had high expectations for him, but going back to this game, really, it's funny, really, how just the parity with this team. I've been dogging them all season long about the little mistakes or the things that are not doing that will eventually catch up. And then eventually, when they start to get it together, and you see them do the right things, they somehow stumble over their own feet, and we have ourselves a 3-2 game going into the third period. Nikita Kucherov, like I stated earlier in the episode, just his unbelievable ability and talent to just say, guys, let me have my space, let me have the puck, and let me win this game or tie this game and get us back into it. And you saw that there was a rush there, a couple of sequences there at the end of the game. Of course, Kucherov's goal coming at 1947 in the third. There was a couple of sequences before that where you could see he was really trying to force the issue. And that is something that I've spoken about throughout the season, especially most recently over the last couple of months, where he's really started to assert himself, where he's really, we don't see it very often in the game of hockey. We see it in more so in basketball, where a player will basically take possession of the puck absolutely on every single possession. And it's really just that one player doing whatever he wants to do against the opposing team. Where, of course, in hockey, we don't see that as often. But in this game, and especially with Vasilevskiy with Kucherov, his ability to do that and to control the puck, to almost play keep away against the other 5 players on the ice, and to get very good quality shots. There was a couple of shots that he had early on in the period where there was that one time where he whiffed on. He had an open net in front of him, and you could tell he knew it. And I think that's why he whiffed on it. He probably picked up his head a little too quick or jumped out of his skates a little too quickly. Didn't allow the puck to get there at the right time. But just his ability, unbelievable, to do what he did tonight and what we've seen him do before. And I said to myself when he scored that goal to tie the game up in the third period, I said, if he could get hot and do this in the playoffs consistently, man, as skeptical as I have been about this Lightning team in recent weeks of them making a deep run once again, I think that if Kucherov could do that, and if this defensive core and this team in general, if they could do that consistently, I think this team has as good of a chance to win a third straight cup as any other team has a chance to go and win a cup themselves. Um, and obviously, that's something that is probably not sustainable, but given his talent level, I don't see why not. We'll just have to see how he could adjust if he chooses to go that route in terms of really playing that style, which, like I said, and I have said on past episodes, I don't object to. Um, so fantastic game to really the three stars of this game. If I had, and I haven't done this in a while with a Lightning game, three stars of the game. If you had a gun to my head and asked me, I would probably say, and I'm looking at the official three stars of the game. That's Anthony Cirelli, Adam Henrique, and Alex Colorand, and that's on NHL.com. But my three stars of the game, my three Lightning players of the game. Third star goes to Brian Elliott, just coming into a really tough situation. Really, it's a tough task to ask any goaltender to come in and just keep the dam from overflowing. Because usually, if you're pulling a goaltender and the backup or whoever's on the bench that night is coming out, usually it's all gone to hell. That's really what has happened at that point in time. But we forget that Cooper pulled Vasi with a 3-2 deficit in the second period. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot to be made about that. And what I got out of it was more so that Cooper did it as to send a message to his players. I think also, and I'm sure there was a conversation had. We might not hear any of the details about it, but maybe this was also an excuse for that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Cooper had a deal with Vasi before the game. Hey, let's put you in there. We do want to get you some rest, but if things kind of try to get out of hand, I'm going to pull the plug, and that'll be at that. But going back to my stars of the game, my second star of the game is Anthony Cirelli, game-winning goal. He is someone who is just on the cusp of just going absolutely berserk on the offensive side of things. We've seen this all year with Cirelli picking up his 16th goal of the season in this one. But what a season it's been for Anthony Cirelli. Just his offense is really starting to come together. His all-around game has really, really started to come together and has really taken a big step this season. But there's been stints this year we've seen with Cirelli, as well as what we've seen with Ross Colton, just right there, whether it's having great opportunities, setting yourself up for great high danger chances, either just missing the net by a couple inches or just hitting the crossbar or whatever the case may be. Just one of those guys where he's always an inch or so away from a great goal or an inch or so away from a great assist. But he's one of those players that whenever something really good happens with this team, especially late in games, whether he is the immediate one of the assist guys on the play, regardless of where he is, he's always in the thick of it. And that is something that you can't really measure on a hockey player, is a guy who is always in the middle of the play, who is always in the thick of it, who always somehow has something to do with whether sometimes he makes the play before the big play that leads up to the big play in a game that turns the game in favor for the Lightning. And that's something, like I said, you can't calculate that. That's something you got to watch the games and see the team and see how the player plays. And that's something that's going to be huge coming into this upcoming playoffs. And then obviously the first player of the game, for me at least, I know some people might not think this, but Alex Colorand. Really, if you want to give him those 2 goals, go ahead. But a goal and an assist in this one. Could have had a hat trick if him and Brandon Hagel just stayed on side. But he's another player who's looking like he's starting to get really hot lately, who's always in the thick of it. So it's good to see him get on the score sheet once again. And it's one of those games. It's really one of those games where you see all the right players are contributing, doing all the right things. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a clean game, but the Lightning won. They clinched the playoff spot. We don't have to worry about that. Not like that was something we were all really worried about. But having said that, now the Lightning have to look forward, fine-tune their game. Now at this point, really, John Cooper shouldn't really. I would say maybe Vasi gets 2 starts a week. Not even looking at the schedule. We'll talk about that as we always do to end the show. How much does Vasi start from here on then? I really don't think we have to play him that much now that the Lightning, their playoff spot is solidified. So if you're listening to us on an audio platform, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever, you're going to cut to a quick break. But if you're on YouTube, you're going to stay with us real quick. So cutting right to it to end the show, just a little wrap up here, looking at the schedule as we always do to wrap up the show. So coming up on Saturday, the Lightning will be at home once again playing against the Winnipeg Jets, a team that has really had a tough go of it this year. The expectations were super high for this team. They lost a couple of their good players. Their head coach, who has been a staple of the franchise, I believe Paul Maurice has been there since they moved from Atlanta. Just really one of the faces of the franchise resigning. So just a franchise this year that has been in somewhat disarray. And then next Tuesday on the 19th, a home game. The Lightning are pretty much at home from now until not this upcoming Sunday, but the Sunday after, the last Sunday of April. Lightning get to stay home for a little bit. They play the Detroit Red Wings, who, like, if you've been a listener of this show for a while, if it's one team in this division that I am just, even if it's game one against them, or if it's the last game of the season, the last matchup of the season, if it's one team that I absolutely despise playing against, because it's one of those teams where they just give the Lightning the worst luck, the worst time, that is the Detroit Red Wings. I just look at the schedule, and whenever I see the Red Wings, I say, all right, thank you, next. Don't even want to talk about it. And then right after, you got the Toronto Maple Leafs, big game, one of the last big games of the year, a potential playoff matchup for the Lightning. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, I still talk about it on the last show, how that is still, regardless of everything that has happened, the last result that these two teams had last time they played, a 6-2 win at Amalie for Toronto, Austin Matthews scoring a hat trick. Even after that, even after everything that has happened since then, I still would want to play them instead of Boston or the Rangers or the Hurricanes. So, call me crazy, but I'll take Austin Matthews instead of any of those other teams. And then on the 23rd, you got the Nashville Predators, a team that is also still tough, still, in the playoff race. I don't have the Western Conference in front of me right now in terms of the standings, but either they're in it or they're in the thick of it. We'll talk about obviously more about that, and I'll sound more informed about them as that game comes up. And then you got the last crazy game of the year, in my opinion, just because this is a game where really both teams have made it. It's one last big firework game before the playoffs start, and this is really, for me, a game where I just hope nobody gets hurt, because this is going to be a tough, really super physical game on the road, and that is against the Florida Panthers, a Sunday night game. The whole league will be looking at that one, so that is going to be a very tense game, playoff atmosphere down in Miami. Well, whatever, where South Florida. And then you got Columbus at home, last home game of the year. And then you go up to Columbus on the 28th. And then you got the Islanders to end the season on the island, a game that I will be at. So keep an eye out for that. And if you are going to that game, hit me up. Let's grab a beer. Let's talk some Lightning hockey. So really, to wrap things up, the reason why, of course, I wanted to talk about the schedule as always, because we always do that. But at the same time, really, how many more starts are we seeing out of Vasilevskiy from this? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left in the season. And really, I'm looking at that, and I would have to say, I think Vasi should start against Florida, Toronto, and Nashville. And I think that's it. I think those are the games. I think really out of these 8 games, Vasi plays those last 3. And that's it. Anything else is just, we need to maybe have an intervention for Coop. I don't see the reasoning at this point. All the signs are there. He's kind of out of sorts. Maybe he needs some time to just clear his mind, get ready for the playoffs. He's clearly gassed. And I think anything else other than anything more than 3 games started from now until the end of the season is overkill. You're playing with fire at that point. And especially with Brian Elliott playing as well as he has, why not? Why not? I mean, really, all at this point, what you're playing for is who you're going to play in the playoffs. And you know what? Regardless of if Lightning end up playing Toronto like I would like them to, or if they end up playing the Rangers, if things change up in the Metropolitan, or if they end up playing Boston or Carolina, it is what it is at that point. You know, the Lightning have as good of a chance to beat any of those teams, and going into a series like that, where you're basically putting yourself behind the 8 ball with your ace in the hole being Andrei Vasilevskiy, being exhausted, you're putting yourself in a very precarious situation where you don't want really the biggest source of team morale and confidence in the playoffs to be the biggest concern for you going in. Because those are going to be games, regardless of who the Lightning play, especially if it's, you know, a team like the Rangers or even Carolina. Those are the games that are definitely going to be won by goaltending. And the last thing you need is Vasilevskiy just breathing through his mouth or just second guessing himself, looking shaky out there, because it's going to be a very short series. I would expect that Cooper is maybe going to handle Vasilevskiy a little bit more with care going down the road. I mean, if he plays him if he has 4 games, wants to split it up evenly with him and Elliott, I mean, I'm not going to come on here the next day after the 4th start and blow my top. Am I going to be a little upset? Yes. At the same time, I mean, we could only control the things that are within our control, right? So we'll be back here tomorrow to discuss more of any of the details from the post-game presses, because I would love to hear what a lot of these guys have to say, as well as we will preview the Winnipeg game on Saturday. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages. Once again, at LO_Lightning, as well as LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram. Give me a follow on Twitter at DankyDank, DENKYD8NK. And don't forget, if you choose to follow us on YouTube, go ahead, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up, write a comment in the comment section. We'd love to hear from all of you. And join us for the next episode. So that'll be it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.